Hey folks, in today's vinegar adventures we are going to make blueberry and lemon vinegar. I have got in this bucket 2 kilos of blueberries that have been frozen. So I've got 1 kilo bags. Now they've been frozen for 2 reasons. The first reason is that it buys me time to decide what I want to do with them. So I don't have to make up my mind straight away as soon as I get the blueberries. And also, when I do use them, I know that I want juice out of them. So by freezing them, it breaks down the cell walls and helps us extract more juice. So the first part of this video, we're actually going to juice them and then let them sit to extract that juice. The second part of the video, we'll ferment them, and then the third part of the video, we will turn them into vinegar. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the blueberries from this bucket with the juice that's dripped out of the bags into this bucket. Now everything that we've got here has been sanitized. I'm going to sanitize a bucket down here. So this is probably going to get messy. You can see here just how much juice has already come out just from freezing them, so that's awesome. Now just be careful when working with blueberries. The juice can stain. So don't do this while wearing a white top. Let me throw these in the rubbish before it makes it too messy. Clean, always clean as you go, and we'll add in the last of the juice. Now the reason I'm doing it this way is that these are thirds quality blueberries from the local blueberry farm, and because of that there's some stalks in there, there's some bits of leaves and stuff in there. And we don't want that in our main brew. So we're just going to use it to do this to extract the juice first. So now that we have put them into this bucket, we are going to give them a mash, as you can see me doing now. Again, this breaks down the cell walls to get more of the juice. We also want some of the tannins from the skins, which is why we're going to add boiling water, because that will help extract the tannin, and that'll give the vinegar a slightly fuller flavour, bit of mouthfeel, and it won't just feel like a watery blueberry thing. Right, so I've just boiled the jug. You may have heard it go ting in the past, so we're going to add in some water. Right, so we're going to add 1 litre of boiling water to this. Once again, this helps to extract the juice. It is going to dilute the blueberry juice just a fraction, but the boiling water is actually going to bring us more benefits in extraction than it will the downside of dilution. So get in there and give it a good mash. Now, while this is sitting here on the boiling water, we're also going to zest our lemons. So I'm just using 3 lemons today because I want quite a lemony flavour for this. Not going to add any lemon juice at this stage because we have to get this to ferment to start with. And to do that, we need a pH in the 4+ range. If we were to add too much lemon juice, that makes it too acidic, and our yeast then can't operate. So it's a balancing act, but we can add in the yeast after it's we can add in the lemon juice after it's fermented, and that's fine. Now these lemons are off my own tree. I have given them a clean down And what you didn't see off camera was I did sanitize the skins. Oh, my hands are getting quite slippery from the juice and the oils coming from the lemon as I zest them. So we're putting this in with the boiling water as well, because we want that water to extract a lot of the flavour from the zest. And this will do it in such a way it doesn't really add to the acidity, but it gets the flavour in there. I'm just going to juice those lemons later, and they'll get used later on in the recipe. So I'll juice them, put the juice in the freezer, and add it later. Right, so let's give another bit of a mash. So now what we're going to do is we are going to put a lid on this bucket, and we are going to just let that sit somewhere at room temperature for 24 hours for that boiling water to extract as much of the blueberry juice and goodness and tannins as it can. It's now been 24 hours since we put the blueberries in hot water into a bucket. So now we're going to run it through a colander, and I've got a piece of strainer cloth in it that's been sanitized. So we're going to run this through the colander to get the juice. We're then going to add some more blueberry juice to it. So I have a steam juice extractor, and back in March, I acquired 20 kilos or 44 pound of blueberries. So I put half of them through my juice extractor, and so I've got, these are my last 2 litres of blueberry juice. So very carefully, hopefully without spilling, we're going to, oh, it's splashing everywhere. It's going to stain everything. Oops. Folks, welcome to my channel. This is what I do. I make messes. We'll just allow that to drip a little bit before we try and put the next lot in. This could take a while. Well, that took a while, but we got it all in. What we're going to do now is just grab this strainer bag, lift it up, and we are going to squeeze. I just want to get as much juice out as we can, and yes, I'm making a mess again because it's what I'm good at. Now I don't want too much of the pulp coming through the mesh of the bag. But we're just gonna get as much as we can realistically. Right. Now we probably, I'm going to call it a day there with that one. And probably give those blueberries to my chickens. They'll like them. Oh gosh, I've made a mess everywhere. Aren't I good? Right, and we'll also get rid of our Now, what's interesting here is we put in 2 kilos of fruit and then we added 1 litre of boiling water. If you look here, we've got just over 2 litres of liquid out of this. So that's fabulous. What we're going to do is we are going to add in 1 litre of this juice, and then we're going to take a reading, calculate how much sugar we need to add. There's a bit of sediment in the bottom of the bottle, so I'm just going to right. Now typically blueberries and most of the other berry fruit do not have a very high sugar content. We'll probably be lucky to get maybe 10 points of sugar out of them, but let's work it out so that we can figure out how much sugar we need to add. Okay, we might have got a bit more than I thought, which is good. Wow, we've got a lot more than I thought. This is great. Okay, so we have got 1.034. So we've got a measurement of 1.034. So we need to work out how much sugar that we need to add. And the way to do this is to start backwards. I want this to go to 8%. So we start with that. We go 8% divided by the almighty coefficient of 131.25 equals 0.0609. So let's just round that up to 0.061. So we need 61 points of gravity. We've got 0.3034, so we'll just drop all the zeros to start with. So we want 61 points and we've got 32. So we'll go 61 minus 32. So we need 29 points. I know that in 100 grams of sugar in 1 litre adds 31 points. 31 and 29 are pretty close. Because I've still got a litre of this juice over here and 4 litres is here, I reckon we make a 4 litre brew. So if I was to add 400 grams of sugar, that will add 31 points of gravity to a 4 litre brew. Add it to the 32 points that we've already got, and we're going to be on a roll. So let's add 400 grams of sugar. We're just going to tip that right in carefully so it doesn't splash everywhere, because we've already done enough of that today. And now we stir. So this sugar has been stirred in and dissolved. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to add in the last bottle of blueberry juice, but I'm only going to fill it up to the 4 litre mark. So I'll probably have some leftover blueberry juice and I will find something to do with it. Right, so now that that is up to the 4 litre mark, let's take another reading and see if we got it right. Yep, that's floating. And what did we end up with? There's a lot of bubbles, so okay, it actually went quite a bit higher. We have got, oh, not quite a bit higher actually, we did pretty okay there. We have got exactly 1.070. So if we do some maths, now to work out your alcohol content or potential alcohol content, we go 1.070. Now if this was to ferment all the way dry, which we expect it to, so minus 1.000 equals 0.07. Times that by the almighty coefficient, 131.25. And this is going to give us an alcohol percentage of 9.18% alcohol. It's a little bit high, but what we can do with it, if this ferments all the way out, we can dilute it down with the remainder of this juice. So that way we're still getting the blueberry flavour, but we won't have such a high alcohol content, which is not ideal. Now the yeast that we're using, that I've just got out of the fridge, is a 9% yeast. Now the joys of this is yeast can't read. So if you give them the right conditions, they will often go above their tolerance. So this may actually be able to keep on going. I need to put this into this. Now it has been sanitized. You can see the sanitizer fluid there. I can see this going horribly wrong. So I am going to rack this instead. So I'm going to use a siphon and transfer it from this container down to this container. Now this is going to happen off camera pretty much, because I'll put my siphon, my bottom jar down the bottom there of my butcher's block, and I will sanitize my siphon that I've only just used. And this has already been done over here. So to do it, we put our upper one in, our lower one down, get rid of that, and it's just a simple case of pump this, and it transfers from this container to that container, and I'll be back in a minute once it's done. So we've finished racking it into its fermenter. While it was racking, I did my paperwork. So frozen blueberries, 2 kilos, the zest of 3 lemons, 1 litre of boiling water. So that was all yesterday's while we let it sit for 24 hours. And then I've added about 1.5 litres of blueberry juice, and we used 400 grams of sugar. We started it on the 4th of October. It's a 4 litre batch. The yeast we're going to use is Modi 497. Starting gravity is 1.070. So now we've just got to add our yeast. And once again, this bag of yeast, this 10 gram bag of yeast, is enough to do 5 gallons or 23 litres. So we're only doing a fraction over a gallon. I'm not going to worry about measuring it out as 2 grams or 1/5 of a packet. I just eyeball it. Give or take, I just prefer like about half a teaspoon. That'll do. And then I just peg it back up and put it back in the fridge. Of course not. Let's use the other end. Now this fermenter is rather full, which may cause us issues. When you start fermenting with fruit, and blueberry juice counts as fruit, what can happen is you get a very active fermentation. In other words, you have very happy yeast, and it can blow the bung out, and it also can send your fluid up through your airlock. Now if that happens, you generally want to put a what's termed a blow off tube on, and I possibly will do that. But the easiest solution is to put it either in a bucket or on a baking tray that has sides, just something to catch. If it does overflow, it catches all the drips. So I've already put sanitizer fluid in this bung. Oh, that's pretty well bunged down. So now we put it in the fermentation station, and this is probably, because it's slightly higher alcohol percentage than the other ones, this is probably going to take a couple of weeks easily to ferment out. And to be perfectly honest, at 9%, this would make a lovely, lovely lower alcohol blueberry wine. I might take some off before I add the vinegar to flavour it, to try it. But yeah, so this will just put the fermentation station and wait till it starts up, and I'll make a call from there as to whether I'm going to need an airlock. I think I may need an airlock. Anyway, I will see you back here once it kicks off. This is my brewing area. What I've done with these, so these 4 are going to become vinegars. It's cold here. At the moment it is 15 degrees inside, which is 59 Fahrenheit. And these brews are just taking a very, very long time to do the fermentation stage. A lot longer than they should. And that's just because it's cold. We've had a bit of a cold snap. We're still in spring, so our weather's not exactly tropical. So they're just not fermenting out as fast as I would like. So what I've done is I've put them onto heat pads. This will bring the temperature up to about 25 degrees, which is 77 Fahrenheit. And that's a much, much better temperature for fermentation for these brews. So yeah, that's what I've done, is just to try and get them to progress, shall we say. Right, this blueberry and lemon has been sitting in fermentation for almost 3 weeks. What we're going to do is test it. If it's done, we're going to rack it, measure it, and then get it fermenting. Vinegarizing. Okay, these little bubbles make life hard. Okay, so that is reading at 1.017. So let me just write that down. Let me just calculate what the alcohol percentage is on that, because it hasn't gone all the way, but it started higher. So 1.070 was the original gravity, minus 1.017, which is what it currently is, equals times 131.25. So it's currently sitting at 6.95%. I wanted 8%, so this is really, really close to 7%. I wanted 8%. I could let it go for a bit longer in the hopes that it will keep fermenting out, but I think I might actually just carry on and start using it. So close to 7% is fine. I'll still just get a 5% vinegar out of it. But it's going to be a nice sweet vinegar. So what I'm going to do, because there is a bit of, I put some lemon zest in here and there is some solids goop up the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a siphon and rack it. And with the siphon, I'm going to leave this cap on because that reduces the amount of sediment and goop that gets sucked up. So let's start racking. I'll just pour this into the jug. So I'm going to use the jug so I can measure what the final volume is so that we know how much of a mother to add to it. So put that about halfway down, give it a couple of pumps, and off it goes. So I ended up losing a reasonable amount of it, but there's quite a bit of goop in that. There's a lot of sediment in there. Some of it's gotten into this lot, but that will eventually settle down. But I certainly didn't want all of this stuff in there. So I'm going to get rid of this. Going to work out how much we have and how much of a vinegar mother that we need. So looking at the numbers on the side of the jug here, we've got 3.75 litres. So pretty much, we're only a couple of mils short of a gallon really. So we divide 3.75 divided by 4. We need to add 937.5 mils. Now that's getting a bit precise, so we're going to go with 940 mils. I find the easiest way is to put it on a set of scales and measure it. So what am I going to use as my mother today? So I have previously brewed a batch of red wine vinegar, but that's only 470 mils. And there's actually a pellicle in there as well. So I'm going to need more. I could use apple cider vinegar. It's got the most neutral flavour, but I want to keep the colour relatively intact. So I'm going to use a combination of both. We'll start with the red wine vinegar and then we'll top it up with the apple cider vinegar. I might also use a little bit of the actual red wine vinegar as well. So 940 mils, let's go. Well, that's 382 grams. Might go 500 of this and top up the rest with ACV. Right, that's 500 grams, give or take mils. And we're going to add 440 of this apple cider vinegar. Right, we have 942. Close enough. So we've now got nearly 5 litres here. Funnily enough, I have a 5 litre jar that I've already sanitised, ready to go. So we just pour it in carefully. So now I'm just going to cover it, which I've done, fill in my paperwork and put it in the vinegar station. So what have we done? We have added mother of vinegar, red wine. We added 500 grams of that. We added mother of vinegar ACV. We added 442 grams of that. So our inoculation method was a mother. Final volume, we'll go 4.7 litres. And now we put it in the vinegar area and let it go. Well, it's been a while, quite a while. Life has gotten away on me. But today what we're doing is we are going to take a sample of this and test the pH on it and also test the acidity. As you can see, this pellicle is stuck to the side. Delightful. This is a much smaller container than what we started with because we have had evaporation, so I've just shrunk it to try and keep it in a relatively reasonable size container. Right, so I'm just going to take off a 15ml sample, 1 tablespoon. And now this is a pH meter. I have calibrated it earlier today. Let's see what it's reading. 2.52 or 2.5 is our pH. So what we'll do is we will clean this off, put it away, and we will use this sample now to do some acid titration. So we are now about to begin acid titration on the blueberry vinegar. I am using a magnetic stirrer. You don't need one of these. You can do it by hand, however, it's hard to do it by hand and video it. So I'm using the magnetic stirrer. It's just a lot easier. It's also a lot faster. So what we need to do this, I've got my little magnet in there. To start with, we need 2 milliliters or 2 mils of the vinegar. Right, so I've drawn up 2 milliliters of that, so we'll just put that in. I need 3 drops of our indicator solution, which is phenolphthalein. So just 3 drops. 1, 2, 3. We need 20 milliliters of water. I've already drawn this up. This is distilled water. And now we turn we just want to get it mixing. We don't want to get it going that fast. It creates a vortex. Then I'm using a stronger solution than I used to use. I used to use a 0.2% and would use a 10 ml syringe of it. Now I use a 1% solution and I use a lot less of it. I'm not going to show you how to walk you through how to do this whole thing. I do have videos on that, so I'll put the link in the description box below. I'll also put cards up on the top of it. Right, so now, very carefully, using this is, by the way, this is just a 3 milliliter syringe. I got it from the vet's office because each one of those markings is 0.1 of a mil. So yeah, I just spoke to my local veterinarian and they were quite happy to give me one. Or give me a couple actually. So just 1 drop at a time. And see how it flares bright pink or that magenta colour. What we're looking for is for the whole thing to go magenta, but we need to record exactly when it does. So just 1 drop at a time. Don't have to go too painfully slow, but when it starts taking a while for the magenta to fade out, that's when you know you're getting close. See how it's starting to take longer now for that magenta to disappear? There we go, that's what we're wanting. So now we figure out how much we have used. So I started off with 3 mils. And I have used 1.3. So we turn that off. So we get our trusty calculator out again. As always, 1.3 times 3. That's currently sitting at 3.9%. Okay, So we've tested this and it's come out at 3.9% acidity with a pH of 2.52. As you can see, this started off as a 4-litre batch, which is a fraction over a gallon, and we've now got less than a half gallon. So we have lost over half of this to evaporation. Now, I started this nearly 6 months ago, or 6 months ago, we started brewing this. And on 24th of October, once it had finished fermenting, we inoculated it with the mother. Now, what you guys haven't seen is off camera, I have been testing it. So on the 20th of November, it tested at 1.8% acidity. On the 13th of December, it tested at 2.55% acidity. And then life got in the way. And I tested again on the 19th of March, and it was 4.02. I've written it up here, 4.02, so 4%. And now we've tested today and it's 3.9%. What does that mean? Well, this had the ability to go up to potentially up to about 5%. But what happens is if you over-oxygenate it, if you leave it too long, it can get to its peak acidity and then the acetobacters start actually consuming themselves and you end up with like a coloured flavoured water left at the end of it. Basically, the vinegar degrades. So I would say that it has started the degrading process. I don't know, because I didn't test for that 3 months in between December and March, I don't know what it got up to. I would say at an absolute maximum, it probably got to 4.5%, but it's only dropped 1.1% in the last 3 weeks, which is not very much. Once it starts degrading, it does go quite quick. So I would say the 4% was probably about its peak, the 4.02. So what do we do from here? I'm just going to strain this through like a coffee filter type thing. I've got some filters that you use for straining cooking oil. So I'm going to strain it through the filter and then I'm just going to bottle it. Simple as that. I've got probably about 1.7 litres here. So I'll just put it across a couple of bottles, a 1 litre, a 500 ml and maybe a 250 ml bottle. And that's all I'm going to do with it. Label it up and put it on the shelf to use as a mother of vinegar for another batch one day.